Welcome to part 4 of the series. In this video, we'll be talking about arithmetics and concatenation. So what are arithmetics and how is that useful in Python? So for example, I will have a variable titled num, and let's see if that is an integer with a value of 6. And let's say I want to add these this integer with 5, for example. I can create another variable and call it maybe num2 is equal to num plus int 5, or I can just type 5. I don't need to use int 5, but this is to make sure everything works smoothly. Print num2. If I were to do this, I should get a value of 11. And I do. So basically you can add by creating a new variable. You can put any other operator here. And we've discussed the different operators in the second part. So let's go over them and review them. We have the addition. We have the subtraction. We have multiplication sign, division sign. Then we have the exponent sign. And then we have modulus. And remember, modulus is basically finding the remainder after something has been divided. So 5 modulus 2, for example, would result in 1 because when you divide 5 by 2, you get a remainder of 1. Then you have something called floor division, which divides the values and then it gives out the value without the decimal. Okay, so these are the different operations. I could have used any of these operations over here. Also, I could have also redefined any of these to become float, and all of it still would work. But I would have a decimal at the end instead. Another way of adding these values without creating a new variable would be doing it directly in the print function. I can do that by saying num, print num plus, let's say int 5. So this adds it up and it prints it. And I get 11.0 because this is a float. Now let's talk about concatenation and what that is. Concatenation is basically adding 2 strings together. In Python, I can do that by, let's name our variable string. Actually, I don't want an uppercase letter. So let's name it string, for example. And let's say I want to say hello. And I can do this with a space because you can either have the space here or right here in the beginning, but I would rather have the space here because that's just personal preference. Okay, so this is going to print hello and then a space because this is a whole string, and then world. Just to be safe, let's define it as a string. It would work either way, but I think it's a good habit just to start defining them for the future. And now let's print string. Okay. When I print this, I get hello with a space and then world at a capital W, so it even has that. So you can use the plus to add 2 strings together. Now, let's say, for example, that I want to just print it out. I just wanted to print the concatenation without creating a new variable. I can do that as well by just putting that in the print function. And once I execute the function, I get hello world. Now let's talk about how we can insert something. So for example, maybe we have age and you want to tell your user that something is 5 years old. Let's say the age is 5. And now you want to print you are age years old. So in order to do that, you can concatenate this. And it's always important to redefine. I know that this is an integer, but whenever you're printing it out and you're concatenating, you have to concatenate only strings. So you can redefine this as a string, type in age as your variable, and then we have the last component, which is you are old, years old. So now when I execute the command, I get you are 5 years old. If I were to not have this string be present here, I would get an error saying that string, it cannot be concatenated because it is an integer. So it's always really, really, really important that you make sure that all of the components are string when you're concatenating. Now, there's another way in Python in which you can add the age without typing string. So I'm going to show you how to do that. You can do this by saying you are, use the percent symbol, and type in S, years old. So what that does is it kind of creates a placeholder for that value that you are about to define right now. So after you finish your quotes, you type in the percent sign. This is different from modulus, and you type in age. So that's your variable, and it just defines that variable back over here. Now when I run this, I get you are 5 years old.